All right. So, as Brother Jahan has just told you, I'm in the business of giving legal advice for about 30 years. And my main passion is to actually empower people to be able to speak up against injustice. Now, I've done that all through my life, my professional life. I know many other lawyers who have been very inspirational, activists, radical lawyers who understand concepts of oppression and injustice, and they're always available around. You'll see many in your communities, many probably coming to this congregation, mashallah, who have the right mindset and who will be available to the congregation, to the committee, if you need any legal advice. I'm here because we have a particular objective here, is to actually remind people on our obligation to stand up and speak against injustice. The injustice in particular that we're talking about now, it's a historic event going on. It's absolutely historic, and I'll explain why it means historic. The genocide and ethnic cleansing that is taking place in Palestine. And as I said, we've all read about this in our history books. We've done memorial days at school, at universities, and every year we say, never forget, never again. And lo and behold, it's happening live in front of our screens, openly supported by people we thought were respectable politicians, people we thought were respectable journalists. And we're seeing pictures on our smartphones and our laptops and TVs where children being cut to pieces. And I'm referring to a William Dalrymple, is a historian, his tweet today. A couple of days ago, 180 children a day are being murdered. That's the level of zulm that is taking place. And now we're in a masjid. We understand our Islamic obligations to stand up for haqq and confront batil. That's a basic thing that all of us are taught at a very early age as part of our learning of Islam. So we have a duty under Islam to speak up and hold those who are responsible for this to account. Where the lawyers come into it is where there's understandable apprehension about the consequences of speaking up against powerful government, powerful lobbies, and what kind of consequences there will be here. So I'm not going to be going through every single right and every single issue, what to do in this situation, scenario, because no two scenarios are normally the same. I'm just going to say a few things, what I do generally, and I'm going to let the brothers and sisters let you ask me any question you want whatsoever. All right? Any question, anything to do with law, anything to do with politics, anything to do with the history, please ask, and I will give you the benefit of my understanding, my knowledge, and my experience. And I always start my talks with saying that I don't break the law. I've never broken the law. And I never encourage anybody to break the law. I say that, and I've been involved in heavyweight activism. I've done some very, very serious cases, whether it's terrorism cases, whether it's charity cases, whether Ofsted cases, very, very serious, high-profile cases, alhamdulillah, with ease. And the reason why I say that with ease, and this may come as a surprise to a Muslim community which has been for decades keeping its head down. This country is one of the easiest countries in the whole wide world to assert your values, haqq and batil. There's no doubt about it. And I'm an expert in English law. Right? I have 30 years experience. All right? So let's take this out of the mind that we're living in North Korea or we're living in Egypt. We're going to be picked up by the secret police, Mahabharat, and all this complete nonsense. And what we've done is, unfortunately, as a community, and there's lots of reasons for all this, we've internalized fear, self-censorship, Islamophobia, racism. And we suddenly think, you know what, I think we're living in North Korea. We're not, we're living in Britain. And the law is, you are equal citizens. You are equal citizens who pay taxes. And there's what's called a constitutional arrangement between the citizen and the state. The state cannot survive without your taxes. And when you give your taxes, the state must look after what you think are your values that you want to promote. Now, if you remain silent, if you remain in your ghettos and sort of whisper to each other, brothers, you know, we're hotter than coals, end of days is all over, and create despair amongst each other, as we have done, unfortunately, over the last 2-3 decades, you're going to have a very, very disempowered community. All right? So that's why I'm not particular fan of institutions or individuals who go around spreading fear. What we do, and what we've done with Cage, is we document how the system is being changed over the last 20-odd years. That's a historical record. We do that as a matter of our own obligation as Muslims to witness, to empower, to confront. That's for ourselves. We don't do anybody a favor. As an individual, you say, you know what, I have to do this. I've got to be with Allah Ta'ala is going to ask me questions. What did you do? Yes, I spoke up. You know, here's I documented this, I did this. Each one of us has that obligation individually. We all can fulfill our rituals. We can all go to Umrah every year. We can all sit down and, you know, go to fiqh classes on wudu and how to wash your hands and how these sort of things, right? There's absolute historic levels of oppression going on. And you know what the worst thing is? In our name. Forget what's happening in Palestine, forget Israel. This country, these members of parliament, these people we respect in the media are fully endorsing those murders. Now, forget the law. Forget anything. Forget your Islamic values. Any single human, anybody who claims to be human is now outraged by that. There's no debate. You're inhumane, get out of my way. There's no debate there. It's genocide of children taking place. Now, you don't need legal advice for that. You don't need to be an expert in Islamic law. You don't need to be an expert in English law. You're a human being, you have basic values, basic instincts. They need to be expressed. Where do we express them? We express them amongst our family. We express them with our neighbors. We express them with our friends. We express them with our work colleagues. We express them on social media, right? I'll go into the social media element in a minute, where the laws are and what we need to be careful about, right? I'll mention that. But the reason why, in my view, they thought they could get away with a genocide was because they thought, 2003, we committed another genocide. We got away with it. Those people never got any justice, never were taken to court, were never arrested for their war crimes. They broke law, it's openly, they broke the law. They never were taken to court, didn't go to prison. So of course, Zalim gets emboldened by that. And they thought they could do this again. But alhamdulillah, it's Allah's will, and it's the special place of Palestine, not just in our hearts, but many other people's hearts, which is that it's united the world. Not just the Ummah, the world. The world is united against those elites, whether it's Washington, whether it's London, whether it's Brussels. They have been exposed, they have been marginalized, right? So this is why when they talk about banning marches, they can't do it. Because there's millions of people, millions may not turn up tomorrow, or tomorrow, isn't it, or Sunday? Tomorrow, yeah, millions may not turn up tomorrow, but they know millions are outraged. How do they know that? Because people have been speaking up, people have been reassuring each other, listen, this is genuinely inhumane. We've got to speak up. People can't remain silent. I've seen professional racists, those who hate Muslims. They don't want to kill them, they said, so I'm here, right? Even they are saying, what on earth are you doing? They are attacking the government. This is racists who don't anti-Muslims saying these things. So you're not saying anything radical by opposing the slaughter of children. It's a basic human value that every person has ever existed should have. And those who don't, that's how we marginalize them. I've decided if anybody I know in my circle of friends, networks, if they don't take a strong position on this, they're equivocal, I think, you know what, I'm going to watch my relationship with you the rest of my life. Why are you wasting my time? Why are you around me? If you can't condemn a basic thing as slaughter of children, should I really be hanging around with you? You've clearly not been influenced by my values, and I don't want your values around me. This is how historic this moment has become. Now, take that up to your councillors, to your MPs, police officers, public sector work officials, government, mainstream media, all of them. Each time you assess somebody, look at that. Where is your basic humanity? You lack that, I'll remember you for the rest of my life. Right? That's how we distinguish between haq and batil. Right? That's all basic humanitarian values, right? So the reason as a lawyer why I don't get too detailed about hypothetical situation, what happens there, and I've learned this over many years, speaking to masjids and organizations and various groups, things like that, right? People get confused. It's just like, is it this, is it this, is it this? And they miss the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, there's a slaughter and a genocide going on. You shouldn't need the law to deal about that. Right? It's just your basic thing. So go back to social media. One way we've been dealing with them and we're beating them, the mainstream media, how they try to control everything, and what was, I think, different from 2003 in Iraq and why they got away with it was that now we're able to bypass the censorship of the mainstream media, which is obviously very biased towards their governments, which is supporting Israel, is that actually other people are seeing the true evidence that they're trying to hide. Now, once you've seen all the evidence, it's because people are WhatsApping each other, people are going on Twitter, people are going Facebook, outraged. Now, the legal advice. When you're on social media, or when you're generally talking, first of all, talk about social media. Why? Think about whatever you're sharing. Personally, I don't like sharing horrific videos. I think they achieve no purpose except to say, oh, doom and gloom, right? You know what you're going to do by sharing it? You're going to create despair. You say, Allah Ta'ala, Shaheed, may Allah Ta'ala give the highest status in Jannah, make dua for them. What we want to do is, our focus is, how can he stop more people dying? How can he stop more people being killed? All right? So I don't personally like people who go around sharing too many horrific videos, right? Except to say, oh, you know, it's called self-flagellation. Oh, forget that. We're in the business of trying to stop it, not come and crying with each other. Allah has put us in a situation, we got to stop it. And the reason why this is important here is because our taxes, our representatives are actually part of a bigger game team, which is actually doing the oppression. So how do we speak up? So in this country, amongst our neighbors, we keep pushing what everybody else is doing around the world to act locally. We are speaking out. The government is feeling under pressure. The rulers are feeling under pressure. And how do we? Go back to social media, before I digress. Don't share videos that are any information that's done by somebody who's from a prescribed group. Prescribed group is a banned group, right? So what they've done is, they've prepared all this, what we call the infrastructure of laws to try to stop people from expressing themselves, right? So this is what a cage we've been documenting over many years, about 20 years now, right? So I won't go into the annual laws that were passed, but I'll explain to you the consequences, and what it means is that they've tried to say, well, this group is banned. If you share their media or share their stories, you're committing an act of terrorism. You're glorifying or you're disseminating information about terrorism, right? As I said, I think a lot of it is nonsense, but you have to abide by the law, right? So I said, well, don't share it. Why do you need to share it? Information is already on the BBC, or Channel 4, everybody's doing it. Why do you need to share all these sort of things, right? Don't share that, but what you do share is the anger, build, or empower each other to speak up, go to your councillors, go to your MPs, go into your masajids, go into your workplaces, and raise alarm. And I know there's people talking about doing direct action, talk about general strikes, blocking things. Let's think about this. There's a genocide going on. This is not an ordinary situation. Let's think about these things, right? How do we how do we stop something? If it was Srebrenica, for example, yet what happened in Bosnia? Now, looking in hindsight, what could we have done to stop that? So when you have a genocide going on live, you think about what can we do to stop that? And honestly, we don't need to break the law. And people think, oh, the law is too hard. Don't need to break the law, because this country, within the law, gives you opportunities to express your humanity. It's one of the most free countries in the world. All right? So social media, the only thing worries me most of the time is I see youngsters, other people say, why are you sharing this video? This might be a prescribed group, and therefore, when they look at it, when they stop you at Schedule 7, you're going to buy the airport, get hold of that, all right, you disseminate terrorism information. So they can pick on people, they can arrest people. So we don't need to do that. We don't need to break the law, right? What are the other limitations, the difficulties about symbols and all these sort of things? We don't need to, because we've won the moral argument. All we need to do now is organize and empower people to get together. Make your demonstrations bigger, make your sit-ins bigger, make your videos bigger, right? Show your MP their career's over, right? Work towards, I know some areas where people say, you know what, this is it. I can't do anything nationally or internationally. I'm just going to make it very personal. My local MP, your career's over, mate. Because I've got a year left to the next election. I'm going to speak to 20,000 people with a group of us. We're going to do that. You're over. As much as they might be afraid of the war lobby, much as they might be afraid of government and their ministers, they want their MP status more than anything else. Who's the MP for this area? Sorry? What's he like on this? Has he called for a ceasefire or not?
We haven't seen him.
He's not called for a ceasefire?
No, he's not. He's a Labour.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, well, this is what I said in my constituency, right? So please don't get me wrong. That's an insult to me. My MP is helping to stop a ceasefire of a genocide. That's a personal insult, right? So what I said in my area is, listen, mate, this is what we're going to do. Right? It's up to Allah whether we get success or not, but we're going for you. That's what your MP needs to learn. You want your career as our representative, or do you want to basically enable a genocide? If everybody does that in all the constituencies, they would capitulate, because then no lobby, nobody would be able to put pressure, because their personal careers are more important. It's the level of, let's just say, my disappointment that if we Muslims had better understanding of politics and law and this country we're living here, when 2003 Iraq war happened, and we had taken more actions, better organized each other, learned these issues, maybe we would have stopped this class of politicians doing the same, taking part. But that's why I think, well, why did we let it go? How did we let these people come back in our constituencies supporting a genocide, as they did in 2003 in Iraq? So it's very personal for all of us. Each one of us has an obligation. We know about it, you know what I mean? We're not going in any physical violence, and therefore you do not break English law. English law says you cannot fight unless you're a member of an army, a state organization. So therefore, there's no need, and I will say this categorically, too many people have said it, people up there, they don't need fighters, all right? They don't need fighters, and all you're going to do is very often, you're a hindrance. So forget this whole idea, you're going to do jihad and all these sort of things, right? You don't do jihad against F-16s and drones and everything like that, right? And frankly, there are legal, lawful means of helping the victims, right? And that's what we need to learn more and more about. So I'm going to open the floor to brothers and sisters. Any question, please, you feel like you want to ask, feel free to ask me. It's okay?
So go ahead, brothers, inshallah, this is your chance to ask any questions. And, alhamdulillah, we're very lucky.
Like you said, the MP.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in Newham. Same thing, I wrote standard, very aggressive letter. The first thing they said was, it's outrageous what's happened to Israelis. It was a very soft tone. And the same thing, these are all Labour majority strongholds. You know, Wolfram Forest and all this. I've been complaining for a long time with the local people. What it is, traditionally, our people, our community, they're all Labour supporters. That's the problem. You know, like in terms of, historically, I've noticed, you know, it's always been Labour, Labour, Labour. But what is your Labour councillor, or, you know, when you go knocking at the door, are they actually representing you? This is, no, because in the majority, there's a mindset of in our community where you vote for Labour, you know, like this kind of thing. But what is the actual councillor doing for you?
All right. I mean, my personal view is actually that in Westminster politics, there's no alternatives. They're all the same. Remember, Labour 2003 quitted the genocide in Iraq. It's Labour's opposition now, but they will be the same position as the Conservatives and the Lib Democrats, right? Okay?
I see it, both parties, they're almost the same.
And Lib Dems as well.
Yeah.
And Lib Dems, whatever, yeah? So, there are no differences right now in a democracy, in a civilized society, enlightened society, in the way they treat weak nation than it was 500 years ago, when there was before enlightenment, before democracy, before humanitarian values. There's no difference. So what have we achieved? What has Westminster given us? So you got to think about it that way, in terms of this, you know, we think that, you know, the MP or councillor now is a bit less God or something. They're nobody. They're just individuals looking for work. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, looking for a career. They got it. So first of all, we got to out of our mind this slavish mentality that these are our leaders. We have to bow to them. They are just individuals. All right. So if you look at them where you're not overawed by them. Remember, you know, I understand. You know, when you have a community where one generation ago we were on the farm living in, you know, not very sort of great housing, and you have an MP sit standing next to you, you think, wow, I've made him up. You know what I mean? Yeah. That slavish mentality, inshallah, is gradually moving away now. So, you know, we get a bit more confidence, a bit more citizenship. That's what I'm saying. We're no longer those grateful immigrants. Thank God we're here. We are now equal citizens, and therefore we talk with honor, with pride, with equality. So whether it's an MP, a councillor, anybody, you talk to them openly. You know what? I'm pretty sure that if Muslims get together, put a few hundred together, that MP won't be as contemptuous as they've been so far.
I mean, for example, we've got Muslim MPs. Like,
Yeah.
They're silenced. They don't even, you know, they're not even talking.
Yeah.
They're not even condemning.
But the thing is, I don't want us to focus on us Muslims only. Almost like say we have no right over non-Muslims. We are equal citizens here. I mean, like, you know what? Whether it's a Muslim MP or a Hindu MP or a secular MP, they're an MP. MP have to follow a party line. So they have to follow a party line. And then you say to, well, you're following a party line, not representing us, and therefore I'm not interested in you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think if we isolate Muslim MPs, it's almost like being unfair on them because we only expect Muslims to speak for us. No. We want every single person, we're equal citizens in this country, to share our values on basic humanity. It shouldn't just be a Muslim. Do you know what I mean? Yeah? So I think what we'll do is on that one, on parliamentarians, take a large delegation, hold vigils outside their offices, they will listen. Right? Because they respect nothing else more than the fact that they want to stay in a job in your constituency. All right?
Got a question from upstairs from the sister saying that what can we do within school as a student, and what are the limits of what teachers are allowed to say or not?
It's a very good question, actually. Now, teachers, I imagine most of them will be as outraged as the young students about what's happening. The teachers have a hierarchy, headmasters, head teachers, and they have to sort of guidance from the Department of Education, all these sort of things. So the government's going to give a very biased guidance. So they're going to try to suppress people expressing sympathy for Palestine, right? Now, fact of the matter is, as I said about elders, Muslims or non-Muslims, you know, if you're a child, growing up student, pupil, you're learning and seeing all this, you also have a heart, you also have feelings where you're outraged by certain things. Do you know what I mean? Yeah? Really outraged by certain things. And therefore, their you should speak to your fellow pupils, you should speak to your teachers and say, look, we can't let this go without comment, because the whole humanity of this school is going to be questioned because we remained silent when a genocide was taking place. Because all those annual remembrances days, never again about genocides, Holocaust, that you teach us about, nobody's going to respect that anymore. Because when one was going on live, you told her to shut up. So you got to make those arguments with the teachers. You're also empowering the teachers, because the more pupils speak up, the teachers will feel a bit more confident, thinking, well, you know what, this is what our pupils want. And in terms of business, in school, who's the customer? It's the pupils, right? The customer's king. So the pupils have to, first of all, just organize, sit down with each other, talk to each other, right? Go to the teachers and say, look, how is it? How can we possibly commemorate future genocides, Srebrenica or Holocaust or whatever we're talking about? When this is going on, you're silent. When Ukraine was going on, Putin took 500 kids from one war zone to another, didn't kill them. There was a war crimes allegation against him. Here, there's openly killing them with weapons supplied by America and Britain. So it's not actually that difficult anymore. So I think my advice to school kids is to actually get together with your group of other kids, speak to your teachers. Teachers on the whole are generally very reasonable people, most of them, and empower them as well and say, look, you know, how can you teach us in the future if you can't, if you're not speaking up when there's an actual genocide going on? Brother, sorry.
Sorry, just a word of caution there, please. I understand people are getting really quite emotionally charged up, but with children you've got to be careful because teachers are being looked at for, it can easily become a safeguarding issue. And there have been reports in the quality press, in terms of Guardian and the Times, like Muslim children have been taken aside and they've been questioned as to where the values are coming from, which is not compatible with British values and the values that they hold, and the children can be taken into a safeguarding arena.
Brother, that's really helpful intervention actually. Brother's talking about the fact, what does safeguarding issues will be risen if a child starts talking about stopping a genocide? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, well, all sorts of things in relation to what's going on.
But do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when a child goes and talks about a genocide, if it becomes a safeguarding issue, then we have to look at the leadership of the school in terms of their values and their ability to enforce basic values. What you're talking about, and that's why it's important, is what's called prevent. It's called prevent policing. Prevent policing, as the brother says, imposes an obligation on the schools and the teachers to look at extremism. But as a lawyer, write my name down, take it down, go to any lawyer, any police officer in the whole country. I'm telling you, right? Use my name, okay? So you're saying, nobody, no court in the world, unless North Korea perhaps, but in this country, is going to criticize a child for saying, I want genocide to be stopped. And if a child came to me as a lawyer and said, this is what my teacher did, turned it into a safeguarding issue, I will say that's a actually, funny enough, you reminded me, I'm actually dealing with a particular case where the teacher did, right? And the lad said, actually, lad was actually talking about, oh yeah, I think I want to go to Palestine, I want to stop all this. So actually much more than just trying to stop it. Do you know what I mean, yeah? And the teacher said, oh, safeguarding issue, called the social services police. They looked at it. They haven't taken it as a priority, right? And turns out, I said, well, what about the teacher engaging with the philosophical, intellectual, emotional arguments presented by a young child, entrusted to her by the parents? Where is her training against Islamophobia? Where is her training against racism? Where is her training about safeguarding a child, helping that child to refine their ideas and say to them, look, this is what you can do to achieve the purpose, which is to stop a genocide, right? So you're turning around, you start asking the teacher's qualification and ability, are they trained or not, right? So yes, prevent is there, but prevent, nobody takes it seriously except people who work for prevent. Because anybody who has any knowledge of prevent knows, and this is what the point is, right? Why prevent is not going to succeed, right? As long as there's an open debate about it. What prevent does, the traditional law is that there's a presumption of innocence, right? If a part of the state, a police, social services, what's called a coercive arm of the state, comes into your space, crosses that line, it's called a relationship, it's called constitutional arrangement between the citizen and the state. If the state arm of the state crosses that line, the first thing to ask, this is legal advice now, is right, actually there's a presumption of innocence, why have you invaded my space? So what the law has traditionally said is, well, actually, you have broken this well-defined law, which enables the police or asks the state to say, we want to check, we want to breach your privacy. We're coming here because we have a legal right to do that. So what prevent does, there's nothing defined. It's like, somebody's talking. Oh yeah, somebody's talking about Palestine, Afghanistan. Going to go up there. And you know what? They want to have a chat with you. I said, can you please tell me why you're here? What is it specifically that you're interested in? And this is why prevent is going to fail. It has failed so far, and inshallah it's going to fail further, is that they undermine centuries of tradition in this country, where there's a tradition and love for liberty, right? I used to be a Labour voter. That's a long time ago, by the way, right? Used to be, right? Okay. I don't vote now, because after what they did in 2003, I don't vote now. I have voted for other people, you know what I mean? But my point is, I was never a Tory. But what is conservatism? Conservatism is the conserving of British values from centuries past. What you won't learn in all Islamophobia and extremism, the truth is that there's a small group of ideologues, a very small group. If you take that, two I mentioned, Henry Jackson Society and Policy Exchange, right? They have managed to actually shift the whole cultural tradition of this country towards allowing the state to interfere in the citizen's private life based on undefined offense, right? So because originally it was aimed at Muslims, there's a lot of Islamophobia, obviously, right? So people turned away, it must be terrorism, it must be extremism, too complex, let's not get involved. But we always said there's an infrastructure built to actually control opposition to what people in Westminster are doing. So who's opposition to? So now you've got climate change activists, you've got trade unionists, you've got Black Lives Movement, anti-racists. They are now all victims of that prevent policing. So as all non-Muslims are suddenly realizing, actually the infrastructure is designed to curtail, limit our dissent, limit our freedom, there's no opposition. That's why prevent is failing, right? They can't pass that law. So when they talk about what's called hateful extremism, what they're really trying to say is, look, we can limit with Muslims, we won't apply to white people, right? But that's apartheid. So are we going to let apartheid laws come in this country? No, because there is a healthy tradition, humanitarianism in this country, not just Muslims, non-Muslims, even those, some of them who might not even like immigrants, even those who think, I don't like Muslims. But the sense of fairness, sense of equality is there. And for us to run around and be scared, right? Don't be scared. Prevent any question on prevent. I've been dealing for years since it was conceived, 15, 20 years ago, yeah? I've been dealing with it, right? Prevent, deal with them because they have a job to do. Somebody comes to you, talk to them, have a chat. You just say, can you please tell me what law have I broken? That's where they'll be stopped. Because you know why? The government has given so much powers to the police, almost annual increases to the law. Give me 1 second, brother, yeah? Annual increases to the law over the last 20, 30 years that they can, I exaggerate, right? They can almost arrest you for sneezing. So if a police officer comes to your house or meets you, you're thinking, well, you know what? They're not breaking my door down. What does that mean? They know they've got no power to do anything, right? So that's how we look at it. Rather than be defensive, proactive and say, why are you here, right? And the idea is to actually intimidate, right? It's actually to intimidate. So what the things are doing, for example, I'll tell you what they're doing. So I'm reading something on social media that somebody had booked some coaches for the March Tomorrow in Lincolnshire, right? And suddenly somebody find the coach companies were ranked by the police, oh, could be this, could be this, could be this, right? They cancel the coaches. So in other words, it's called disruption. They have disrupted the people's legal right to come to London via a coach to actually stand up against a genocide. So this is what prevent policing has come down to. It's actually quite dangerous if it succeeds. But intellectually and morally, you see all the arguments, they've been lost, right? So that's why I think we've got to push back and say to them, listen, mate, if the law's broken, let us know. I'll get a lawyer, we can deal with it. But no law's broken. Don't try to sort of bully me. Sorry, this brother was first, sorry.
Okay. I was just going to comment on your point about prevent. It feels like, I was one of those very young guys at the marches in 2003 about the Iraq War and the dodgy dossier and everything that happened. And it feels like since 9/11, there's been a strategy by the government to silence the Muslim community in Britain. And they've been inventing these laws, and the whole idea of prevent is to silence us, it's to keep us quiet, and it's to make us worried about talking about issues that concern us. Talk about Palestine, you're an extremist. Talk about what's happening in Liga, you're an extremist. Talk about this issue, you're an extremist. And it's got to a point where we've actually self-centered ourselves anymore. I remember we used to go to the masjid when I was younger. The imams used to make dua for the Muslims in Palestine. The imam used to make dua for the Muslims in Burma. The imam used to make dua for all of these places. And it's got to the point where we as a community become so fearful about what we say that actually we forget about making dua for the Muslims in Palestine. And alhamdulillah, it feels like over the past few weeks we found our voice, and we found actually all of these years we've been scared.
Yes.
Because of prevent. Don't say this, you're an extremist. Don't say that, you're an extremist. Talk about Khilafah, you're an extremist.
Yeah.
Talk about this, you're an extremist. And we've almost become so scared, we've silenced ourselves. And for me, that's what the government wants to do with these measures. They realise they take you to court, they can't do nothing, right? Because there's no grounds to prosecute you on. But what they are...
They don't take anybody to court, by the way. It's just bullying. Yeah, they don't, because there's no legal process where they can take you to court.
It gets exposed in the media.
Yeah.
It's a difficult conversation in your workplace,
Yeah.
right? Like I've had with me, and they said, oh, I've seen you on a video talking about this. Okay, what did I say? Was that...
Exactly.
So I think for us, what we need to remember, we are Muslims and we are connected to our Aqidah, and we need to be the voice for the Muslim Ummah around the world, and we need to express that voice. We need to expose the hypocrisy. And like you mentioned, right, what we've seen by the British government is sheer hypocrisy, right? What they've said for Ukraine and what they've said for Palestine is not something that just happened over the past 6 weeks. This has been going on for decades, all the way since the existence and the establishment of the state, the illegal state of Palestine, the illegal state of Israel, and the Sykes-Picot Agreement. So I think we need to find our voice, we need to find our courage and say, within the bounds of the laws, within our abilities of being able to speak and propagate and use platforms that are available to us, we can't be scared anymore.
Good. Jazakallah khair,
We
brother.
can't be scared anymore. We have to find our voice, and we have to talk about those issues that we believe in as Muslims.
And also, Jazakallah khair. And the reason why we're not scared, as a lawyer, I'm telling you, because we have rights to speak. We're not breaking any laws. Do you know what I mean? Yeah? These are basic values, right? And freedom of speech is a basic value as well, right? So you can even call it British value, right? So what they want to do, as you quite rightly said, is they want you to self-censor with all this propaganda, right? And they were trying to build a ground to ban this march by all this talk, this, but it didn't work because there were too many people who were speaking up. They thought, you know what, this is a seed that we can't stop, we have to let it go. That's why they gave in the end, do you know what I mean? So I think we should be emboldened by the fact that when it comes to, you feel your instincts. What's your instinct saying about something? Is it humane? Is it inhumane, right? And you know what I said about Muslims? I've got to tell you about prevent. Unfortunately, it was getting very, very popular when it was just Muslims. But when it came to the climate change people, anti-racists and trade unions, That's where suddenly non-Muslims start to realize, the liberal left, oh my God, this is not just about Muslims, it's about everybody, yeah? So this is they're going to control the level of opposition you can give. There's an ideological push going on to change that relationship between the citizen and the state, right? So that's why I think Prevent is on a loser. And one person who pushes is called William Shawcross, right? He's so nutcase. He's almost calling for apartheid laws, right? I don't think we're there yet. Inshallah, after this, I think we will be there, right? Because I think the people, forget what's happening in London, because the elite get away with it because people let them get away with it. When things are comfortable, people let it go, and they form a little sort of detached little elite in Westminster. And that's why, as I said, brother, I'm not interested in, what Lib Dem, Labour, Conservatives are doing, basically, because they have a careers to do. And they're not making decisions anyway, most often, because in reality, the way decisions are made are like 3 billionaires. They control most of the media: Murdoch, Rothermere's, Barclay Brothers, right? So they set the agenda. It's not your MP, it's not your councillor, right? Some of the lobbies, Henry Jackson Society, Policy Exchange, they set the agenda. So when it comes to money, your taxpayers' money, it's the big arms dealers, right? They take the money. When it comes to privatization of NHS, PFI, the big corporations take the money. So in other words, these are the lobbies who actually controlling what's going on. And these people are covered. These are weak individuals who are not very strong-willed, and they just be grateful to have their status as I'm a minister, I'm an MP. But honestly, they don't have any power. And I remember speaking to one MP, he goes, you know what we do is, what the solicitors used to do, many years ago, the government used to give what's called a green form, a legal aid form, where you could give free legal advice to anybody. So any high street lawyer, anybody had any issue, they could go there for 2 hours, free legal advice. And the government stopped that for many years now. He goes, you know what, that's all we do. People come around, what should I do about this? What should I do about this? It's a job that high street solicitors used to do. They don't dare deal with defense issues, foreign policy, banking, NHS, anything. They are almost like numbers that the leadership uses, right? And say, you know what, that's what you're going to do. Here's a whip system. So, so I think that we need to get in our mind that we're dealing with a system that's actually not designed for it. There's a much better way. I'm not one of those people who think voting is haram. And I know there's a valid argument about voting is haram, but I'm not one of those people, right? But I do think the voting is a waste of time in Parliament. I think locally, you can make a lot of difference. Organize locally, get your communities together, and work with non-Muslims, everybody like that, and you can do a lot of good work in your communities. Sorry, brother.
As you mentioned, you're not voting for any party, right? Brother Safi had raised the question, and he mentioned on the last Friday.
Yeah.
So the MPs come and knock your door, right? And they ask for voting, right? So if we want to defeat the one party, right, we have to vote against whom should we turn to? Because, mashallah, we have very large community now.
Well, listen,
all of England, I'm talking.
Listen, I think what you got to do is, first of all, get together with each other. Make sure with each other, first of all. And like I said, our organization, our buildings, we take our leadership from our ulama. We take our leadership from our elders, learned people. We sit down together, we say, what do you think we should do? Now, I can give them advice anywhere, and I always do it. And I will give my advice here as well, what I think should be done. But it's really for the local community to get together. And we've got to get into the habit of sitting down together, not just talking about ritual aspects of Islam, but the practical aspects of Islam. For example, how do we stop a genocide? How do we stop injustice? And I think as long as we get in the habit of that, you will have lots of talented people in your own community who understand the local community, understand the local politics, will be giving good advice to each other, and that's something you can learn from, right? So, but as an outsider from this area, I personally think, I'm going to be very blunt about this, I'd rather vote for Suella Braverman as a Prime Minister, right, than have my Labour MP, local MP, insult me and misrepresent me and help a genocide. That's how angry I am.
I was going to say something, it's just too sensitive. I don't want to.
All right, don't worry.
Also, about in schools, how head teachers are encouraging other things. Can they silence us by giving us punishment systems?
Always be polite with your teachers. Because remember, they got to keep a school going. They can't have children running around everywhere and different things here and there, right? But learn your arguments at home with your friends. Rehearse those first. And what is the argument here? The argument here is this is a mass murder, a genocide of children. We learn about genocides in our school teaching. We wear dead puppies, go to Holocaust memorials, we talk about Srebrenica, what happened, and we think in history it's happened, it must never happen again. The phrase is called never again, yeah? Never again. But it's happening now. Can you please tell us, as a teacher, what we should do? Right? Most teachers are decent human beings, right? But if somebody says, oh, shh, 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 then you're going to say, well, you got to put some kids together. You sit down with other kids, you put yourself in a group together, get your parents together, and go to the school and say, what are you doing? Why are you not teaching my child how to deal with the genocide that's going on here? What kind of teachers are you? You're failing your duty as a teacher to help my child navigate difficult topics. And if you're saying, shut up, you're setting a wrong example. Yeah? So the difficulty, and brother made a very good point earlier, safeguarding, right? And this is where it needs to be talked about. We don't use silly language which gives the impression it's Jews against Muslims. It's not. I can guarantee you it's not Jews against Muslims, right? I know lots and lots and lots and lots of Jews who hate what's going on, right? So we gotta be educate ourselves. We gotta be careful. We don't let our prejudices take over a very good arguments, all right? It's not Jews and Muslims, right? A lot of Jews are leading the movement against what's going on here, right? So when you use language, you got to be careful about anti-Semitism. Quite right. We don't want Islamophobia. It's quite right. We shouldn't have anti-Semitism either, right? So we shouldn't in any way be pushing prejudice or hate towards any group, right? That's a fair argument, and it's a good thing, and that's why one of the reasons we have a quite calm country. Yeah, we don't have violence around and all that. You go around France and all these sort of places, riots all the time going on, right? So it's a good values to have. But in that spirit, you say to the teacher, listen, prove yourself as a teacher, right? You claim to be a teacher, teach me what shall I do in this situation. And if you're telling me I should stop when a child is being killed and slaughtered, right, I'm not going to respect you again, right? But talk to your adults, put group people together. I think that's my main priority. If they don't listen, yeah. Pray, brother.
So just like I'd like to see your view on, should our masjids be giving platforms to MPs and councillors who refuse to condemn the genocide?
I think you know my opinion on that one, right? But I'm not going to, it's local people, you know what, I'm not going to impose on you guys, but since you give me the freedom to speak, you know what I mean? Yeah, I wouldn't let them anywhere near unless they come here to apologize, right, and seek forgiveness and learn about Islam, inshallah. Sorry, brother.
In 2003, Tony Blair lied to the Parliament and now is still free and enjoying his life in Emirates. What can we do as a Muslim and in Cage as well? What he's doing as for a legal process against Rishi Sunak, the MP,
yes,
the Prime Minister, and is anything going on at the moment?
Well, no, the Muslim, pro-Palestinian, other lawyers have written to the government and said they're committing war crimes, actually, giving them notice. So it's been documented, right? So this is why we go back to 2003. This is why I say, well, you know what, perhaps we didn't do enough. We should have been out much more and seeking accountability for the war crimes that happened and work much more clearly. But unfortunately, most of our masajids and most of our elders were saying, you know what, just stick to your rituals. Yeah, you can go to Umrah twice a year, but don't deal about this injustice. That's something I think has got to change permanently now. Right? It's got to change permanently. The law allows you to do that. If you've got any confusion, I'm available. Other lawyers are available as well to help you. So, yes, there are some very senior lawyers who are looking into war crimes on people who allowed that. They've written to Keir Starmer, written to Rishi Sunak and say, look, you're enabling war crimes. You are personally guilty of this. Now, then all depends upon is if we could keep the general public, remind them and say, look, this something cannot be allowed to go. Like we failed with Iraq. This time we don't let it fail, so make it personal. Right? Rest of your life, while I'm here, I'm not going to let people forget. And remember, they always say, never forget. We are never going to forget, inshallah. Sorry, brother.
Yeah, you know what you were saying about the teacher having a go at him. What's in place to stop the teacher from picking on him when he's right? And also, what is stopping him from becoming part of the movement that is, making all of this problem?
You mean the grassroots movement against the genocide?
His teacher having a go at him is pushing him in a certain direction, right? And then he's gonna turn into that guy who...
No. What you're saying is that suppressing children, not educating them in a fair manner, is a safeguarding issue, right? Because it could actually drive them down to looking for information on the dark web, for example, where they can end up being groomed and pushed in the wrong direction. So that's why it's a safeguarding issue by the teacher, failure on their part.
So it's that, or he becomes what's causing the problem, possibly. No?
I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, so the reason we've got all of these, the MPs and all of that, they're like, we don't want to hear it, right? So they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because it's putting money in their pocket, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, what's stopping him from getting in trouble or going down that route? Same route?
Oh, in other words, not being indifferent to injustice.
Yeah, because the further he goes down that route, right, it's going to cause more harm to that teacher. No?
Yeah. No, I think what you're trying to say is that, the more accurate way to look at it is that a teacher as a professional has an obligation, all right, to help a child understand and navigate subjects and topics around them, and to come to reasonable understanding, help them to research in a proper manner, not to get caught up in the wrong sources, fake news, sort of people with dodgy agendas who are online to try to take people away, push them a different way, right? So that's why I say look at it from teacher, as a safeguarding issue part of teachers, they're failing because they're not fulfilling their obligations towards a child.
Yeah, so what to do with that teacher?
Exactly. I think parents should get together, elders should get together, and ask them and raise it to make it public and say, what are you doing? Well, you're failing in your obligation as a teacher to help my child navigate these arguments. And then there's governors, there's a school, right? If they are suppressing their children's right to express their humanity, that's a very big systematic issue failing within the school. And that's where the parents need to be empowered and understand we can speak up against it.
It's about the flag. And if someone wants to have a flag in his window, his car, what's the law saying?
Listen, I'll finish that. I'm not a flag person as such. I'm not into that, all that nationalism. However, I think it's very important when they are trying to suppress the whole Palestinian identity as if never existed. I think you should have flags everywhere. All right? For that reason, because it's sign we're resisting. Yeah? Resisting a suppression, nothing wrong with it. Where you've got to be careful, this is a legal issue now. And I agree with the police on this one. I'm a defense lawyer, but I agree with the police on this one. You can't go around to areas where there's a largely Jewish community or support Israel or people are going to take offense. All that sort of thing, right? Because that's deliberately provoking somebody. That's petty, unnecessary. But there's nothing wrong having your streets, all your sort of cars or your houses filled with flags to let everybody know that, you know what, we are different from our leaders. That we have our humanity, our leaders may not have it. So I think we should have more flags. Inshallah.
So can I just ask one question? So the government have prescribed Hamas as a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
So what are the legal implications of saying in the public arena or on social media that Hamas are not terrorists or freedom fighters? Because I've heard of a few masjids where the khatibs have actually been approached by police.
Yeah.
They said something along them lines.
Yeah.
Sitting very close to the limits on that. So is there any legal implications? Can you see on public, in the public arena that Hamas are freedom fighters or they're not terrorists?
No. You've got to be careful because look at who is a group prescribed or not. Prescribed means banned, yeah? If a group is banned, you cannot glorify them. Simple law, right? You don't need to do that either. What you got to do is, the point is, under international law, the Palestinians have a right to resist. That's legal, right? You don't have to name anybody. You don't have to glorify any particular activity. I say the Palestinians have a right to resist since 1948, all right? What's wrong with that? There's nothing illegal about that. But if I get into the specifics of this group, I'm asking myself to get into trouble with the law. Do you know what I mean? Yeah? So we've got to be sensible about it. Let's not just try to be naughty and say, we're contrary. We don't need to. Listen, Palestinians have a right to resist an illegal occupation by a settler colonial state, right? And therefore, there's nothing wrong with that. The rest is about, if you start about Hamas or Islamic Jihad, you are asking for trouble. And I say, look, just stay away from that. And the other thing, I don't know if you were there earlier, what I was saying is, be careful whose videos you're sharing. Be careful whose press statements you're sharing, because that's called dissemination of terrorist publications. That's against the law. And you don't need to do that, because this is a basic, easy argument to win, to tell anybody, just sharing information. Yes, Israelis killed another 180 children today. What do we do? Why is our MP still not calling for a ceasefire? Simple. We don't need to get in complexities and have a lawyer on the line all the time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, this, can I do that? Because it's very simple. Does that help you, brother?
So, and if you do it, is there legal implications? Of...
Yeah. You don't break the law, because the police will break your door down. Yeah, don't. I say, look, honestly, don't, because some of the police officers are looking for excuses because it's about budgets. Keeps them busy, gives them extra work. Don't give them that excuse. Stay within the law.
Can I ask two questions from the sisters also? We have 20 sisters also, alhamdulillah. One of them is asking, she's actually asking you to clarify when you said don't share on social media, because she believes that it is those who've been sharing authentic news from within the ground, from Gaza, that what makes a difference. Because otherwise we have so many biased news outlets that they're not giving the true picture. So she wants a bit of more clarification.
Yeah, I think on that one, I'm glad you asked that question, actually, right? Because as a sister quietly said, because people have been sharing authentic news, that we've been able to win the arguments, because they try to censor authentic news. So it's important sharing authentic news or whatever, right? But what you're going to look at is, if it says Hamas, if it says Islamic Jihad, if it says a banned group, then the law is sharing publications belonging to a banned group is breaking the law, right? But there's so many journalists, so many individuals who are presenting that information, presenting the news. You can still share that. So what is your objective? Your objective is to show how many people have died, how many buildings have been destroyed, how many children have been killed. That information is available from so many different sources. I know the Israelis tried to break down all the, the communication things, but and in the end they had to let it open again, because obviously they need it for their intel, so it was their benefit to keep it going as well, right? But the information is there, isn't it, right? Information is there, which can be shared, which can be beneficial to educate people and bypass the censorship of the mainstream media. So.
Second question is, can lecturers intervene with blatant pro-genocide ideas supporting posts by peers and classmates or colleagues on social media?
Sorry, can you say that again, please?
Can lecturers intervene with lecturers, teachers, can they intervene with blatant pro-genocide ideas supporting posts by colleagues on social media?
Can lecturers support?
Can they intervene with blatant pro-genocide ideas supporting posts? So people are supporting the idea of killing people.
Well, that is a real extremism issue. If Prevent had any dignity, integrity, honesty about it, those people would have police visiting them, right? And but because it's a very biased thing, this one is not done. And I think again, go back to basic humanitarian values. Anybody who's going around saying, you know what, killing 180 children a day is all right, don't have a ceasefire, their humanity should be questioned and challenged verbally, politely. And if the law doesn't want to do anything about it, it's fine. The law is not fair at the moment, right? But we have to abide by the law. But there's nothing harm in us sharing our values to each other and saying, you know what, this person is actually inhumane in their supporting the murder of children.
And there's the last question came from the sister saying that can we still say the slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free?
I think you can, yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Again, listen, remember this. Look at the context. If you're going to go into a group of sort of Zionists or, with their Israeli flags and go in the middle and say, from the river to the sea, you are being naughty. Do you know what I mean? You are being provocative. There's no need for that. But what I'm saying is, right, the law allows those people to support Israel. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But law also allows you to express your opinions, right? So it's called a public order situation. And we don't want to create a public order offense where you're provoking people face to face. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Just, the national anthem of the Israel is talking about killing people.
Yes.
And bloodshed.
Yes.
And killing the Canaanite.
Yes.
Why this anthem is being played here in UK?
So I think.
And is that shouldn't be against our constitution?
Well, what we could do, I'll give you an example for that, is actually every single adult or child who attends this masjid sign a letter, send to the MP, and say, can you mention this Parliament for us, please? So you basically raised it into an issue. And if he doesn't do it, say, well, you know what? You clearly don't like us. You better go and become an MP in another area because we're going to kick you out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, tomorrow a lot of people are going to the protest.
Yes.
So we just want to make sure there's nothing like group of foolish people trying to jeopardize this. What's your advice on that in general? I mean, what we can be as a general protester?
The way I look at tomorrow is, alhamdulillah, it's an expression of humanity from Muslims and non-Muslims, even atheists, right? See as a positive thing. I'm going there in a cheerful mood. MashaAllah, I'm not alone. I'm not an isolated individual who feels at home that this oppression is going on. There are seas of humanity around the world, London, around the world, who are actually on my side. I'm in the majority. Okay? As I started off this thing, right? This thing about violence, part where it was designed to get parents to stop their children going, get people who who live in isolated lives to start feeling fear and internalize this fear and not go and protest against the government policy. So there's going to be nothing, right? Stay in groups. Don't isolate yourself. Don't go into sort of, areas where you think nobody's there. Just stay in groups. Go up there. Alhamdulillah, it'll be fine.
So just a separate question. I'm not sure whether you qualify to answer, but in terms of why is it there's a one rule for the Israel Westerners to go and fight or sign up for humanitarian aid and actually go to Israel and provide that support, but yet we're not able to reciprocate that for the Palestinians?
No, that's a really important question, brother, because there's a couple of things here apply here, right? One is the attack on Muslim charities which work with Palestine, in Gaza and everything. It doesn't apply to charities which fund settlers, fund Israelis. Yeah? So there's a two-tier system there. Then if a Muslim goes up somewhere, creates war crimes, gets involved in that, they can be called extremists, they can lose their citizenship. It doesn't apply to people who go to Israel. That is unjust law. And that's another question you can ask the MP with a letter followed by hundreds of people selling in the community and say, can you justify, please, why you've got these laws? And what are you doing about it in Parliament? So in other words, he wants to earn a living career based on representing you. Can you do that? So put that question to him and all the councillors say, what are you doing about it? And if they don't, then you need to think, well, actually, why are these people here? Why am I engaging in this? What do we do? And I know Sheikh probably wants to conclude, and if everybody wants to conclude, I'm still available for a few more questions, but in case you're concluding, my conclusion is going to be, is that let's work together let's get together in our masajids, in our local community halls, in our wider families, have these discussions. We got all the expertise, people understand all areas of law, life in this country. Within our families, we have expertise, mashallah. Now we're second, third, fourth generation immigrants. Like, we're no longer the 60s, 70s where we were very confused. So come and work out plans. How do we articulate, advance the arguments that as individuals, as family members, we want to assert? Because it's an absolute, and I'll conclude where I said, obligation for every Muslim to assert haqq and to confront batil. And this is the most extreme levels of batil that's going on in front of us, in our eyes. So if you don't speak up, you really got to ask ourselves, what kind of Islam are we learning? Sorry, brother.
In schools, if they, let's say, they stop you or punish you for support, for showing your support for one side, let's say Palestine or Israel, and they punish you for supporting that and talking to your students, talking to peers about that, and they don't let you outwardly express your opinions, is that allowed?
Right. We were saying earlier, most teachers are going to be nice and reasonable people, all right? Sit down with them one-to-one and say, look, I want to do that, what should we do? If they try to silence you, right, because they're scared about their bosses and don't know what to do, then you get a lot of other group of children together, go as a group, all right? If that becomes a problem, speak to your elders, speak to adults, get adults together and say, like, can you go to school now? A school has to represent its area where the children are coming from, all right? If those children are very interested in what's going on in Palestine, they're affected by it, they're upset about it, if a teacher, school doesn't deal with that, they are failing their obligation as teachers. Are they wrong? Anybody, young or old, who speaks up against what's going on in Palestine is a good human being. So just bear that in mind. You're a good human being. Always be polite, okay? And think about it, how you can make your group bigger to pressurize the teachers not to be scared and listen to the pupils, all right?
We've got another question from the sister. About the protest tomorrow, is it best to conceal your identity? Will there be tracking of who attends by the police? I ask because some of us work with pro-Israel companies.
Listen, I honestly, I don't think pro-Israeli companies are going to be that bothered about you going to a march. Not because they like you, because it's too many. So they can only target you when there's a few. And now this movement is growing to the millions. How many people are they going to sack? How many people are they going to go after? And no pro-Israeli is really going to say face to face to say, you know what, you were wrong to try protest and ask for a ceasefire. Nobody. No police. Privately, pro-Israeli people might use the media and other ways of bullying people, but publicly, in any sort of, in your cafeteria, even in their office space, I say, are you seriously telling me that I can't, your values you're promoting here, is that I can't talk about, ask for a ceasefire to the murder of so many children and civilians? So have these discussions with them. If you want to conceal your identity, it's up to you, sisters. But I don't think legally they have a leg to stand down. You can sue them under employment laws if the employers start being unjust to you. And if they do find out, you say, look, you know what, it's a basic humanitarian value. This is not even a religious issue. I'm sure you as a human being also share my values that there should be a ceasefire.
Okay, brothers, alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, it's just over 9 o'clock now. I think we should end this, inshallah. We'd like to thank our honorable guest here for giving us his precious time. Alhamdulillah, lawyers usually charge a lot of money by hour. Again, alhamdulillah, this is the free one, alhamdulillah.
Well, if you don't turn up a demonstration tomorrow, I'm sending a bill.
One thing I would like to say is, I said earlier, that throughout the whole week I've been talking about this. We have a lot of talents in as Muslims. Many of us are, mashallah, influential businessmen, barristers, lawyers, doctors. Many of you are very influential in the social networks. It is time for all of us to come together for the sake of ending this genocide. We, inshallah, put all our differences behind. This is very important. Alhamdulillah, already we've seen so much happening, alhamdulillah. This demonstration is getting bigger and bigger, and people are coming together. And inshallah, we continue to make dua, and hopefully, inshallah, there is a ceasefire very soon. And most importantly, we want Palestine to be free. We want this occupation to end. There's a lot of talk about prevent. Brother Jahan would like to mention a couple of things, inshallah. I'm going to give you the mic.
Yes, just to clarify something, based on the conversations we've had, if everyone get the phone out, go on cage.ngo. You go on our website, a lot of your questions have got legal answers on the website. So in regards to activism, Palestinian activism school, we have a whole booklet on it, what you're allowed, what you're not allowed to do. How to tackle condemnation questions, what to do if you prefer to prevent. There's a helpline that Cage has set up directly for students as well as masjids for any support and any help. So anything you feel that you need advice on the website. If anyone does approach you or any issues will come about, workplace, masjid or schools, contact the Cage helpline, and we have dedicated caseworkers who can help you, inshallah. The other thing is, I just want to reiterate what Saghir had said, do not self-censor yourself. This is not what we're about. Things have changed now. This is a moment in our lifetime that is not like any other. It's changed now. And if we don't challenge things now, when we have the legal right to do so, and when you have the support of most of the non-Muslims as well, when will you? Now's the time to really get our voice there and make a change. And if you think that you would be making a sacrifice of maybe losing a job or being questioned at work rather than losing it, keep in mind that children die. They're losing lives. You're going to get questioned with it. Let's put things in perspective. If you're not willing to make little sacrifices like this, then where is our argument? I just wanted to add that bit. Cage.ngo, please put it on your phones and check it out. And yeah, you'll find most of the questions, your questions answered, and the helpline is there as well. Thank you for joining up. Thank you very much for the share. And Shafi, thank you very much for that.
جزاكم الله سبحانه وبحمده سبحانك وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.
Exactly. Really appreciate that. Thanks very much. And if you've got my number anytime, please feel free to call.
Yes, inshallah. We are very grateful. Thank you very much.